Hey there, welcome to the fifth episode of this series of building a WordPress website. In this episode, I'm going to make some changes to the homepage, and I'm going to just do a brief recap on what we did in the first four episodes. So let's just quickly have a look at what the website looks like the way we left it. Okay, so as you can see here, we have still got this love cooking photograph in the background here with all that jazz over there. We've got a feed of blog posts. These are all dummy blog posts, obviously. I am not a cook. We've got this strange thing over here, and we've got this subscribe for updates over there. So this morning I did quite a lot of work on the development website, and I've got to tell you, I'm quickly falling out of love with the Kadence theme. Now, hear me out. It's not because of the Kadence theme itself. Just bear in mind that I'm used to developing websites with a totally different theme, a different set of tools, namely the Avada theme and their Fusion Builder, which is completely different to the way Kadence works. Now, if I could draw a comparison with Avada, I've got all my tools in one place and I know exactly what everything does. Whereas with Kadence and with the way Gutenberg is set up, it's kind of like running around an airplane hangar looking for your tools, but there's toolboxes all over the place and you don't know what's inside those toolboxes when you get there. So for me, it's kind of frustrating because I've got to go and do trial and error of everything. So that's kind of why I'm not exactly enthralled with what's going on. But then again, just remember that Kadence, I'm using the free version here, and obviously it's going to have limitations when compared to the theme that I normally use. So just, bear that in mind. Anyway, so typically what I do when I'm developing sites is if I'm working with a new technology, I will do a lot of trial and error. So what I did, and I'll just quickly flip over to the development site. And as you can see here, it's looking slightly different from where we left off last time. So what I did was I removed all of the, I firstly removed the cooking thing, and I did a few other things as well. So I have changed the header, the sticky header, to only to keep only the middle section sticky. So the top part will now scroll away. And what I've done here also, which is why I was a little bit frustrated with this morning's episode, with this morning's developing session, I couldn't find a way of putting a banner, like for instance this banner here, and then if you want to add a sidebar, which I would want to have because it's a blog website, you can't do that with a full stretch across there on this theme. The banner will appear over here and it will shorten this entire thing, which really drove me a little bit crazy. So what I decided to do instead, I came up with a workaround because that's just the way I am. What I did was I used the menu or the logo section of the header. That's the third part, the one that I switched off last time. And I set that to have a background image, and it actually worked out quite okay. I've also done something else which is a little bit unusual or different. I have put the secondary menu into that part of the header. So I've got the eras that I'll be writing about, and each subset within each era will appear as a secondary menu, and I've just called them the epochs. Down below that, I've got my dummy, my feed of dummy blog posts. So what will happen is once I start filling in my own blog posts, they will appear in here instead of this. Because this is a memoir and it's a writing exercise, I'm not going to be using the featured image. So for the time being, I've switched that off. And I've also put the sidebar in over here, which is where you're seeing these other things. So these are not final. I'm going to be tweaking and making a whole lot of changes with regards to that stuff. So what I'll do in this episode is I'll show you how I changed that home page, and let's just get straight into it. So what we're going to do now is we're actually not in the customize menu for now. We're going to be looking at actually changing the content of this page, which is our home page. So once you're logged in, you're going to click on Edit Page. So here we are in this rather unfamiliar section of WordPress so far. What we're looking at here is the Gutenberg interface, which is basically made up of blocks. But we also have the use of the Kadence blocks. And this is where things can become a little bit confusing because there's so many different settings or different toolboxes all over the place. And not knowing where or what each thing does can be a bit frustrating. So what I'd suggest to anybody using this theme or trying to get to grips with this theme is just go through each section bit by bit and do a bit of trial and error. See what it does and just keep undoing the things that you're doing if you don't like what it does. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this block over here. So how do I do that? If you tap anywhere around here, you should be able to select it. And once you've got it selected, you'll see where you are here. You've got the document, excuse the doc just appearing out of nowhere there. And you've got a row layout. So everything in Kadence is based on rows and columns and then the content within those columns. So this specific piece of information is in a row and it has columns and it has stuff within each column. So the columns that you'll see here, you can't really see them too much, but if you look over here, there's 50%. So one side is 50%, the other side is 50%, and you can drag these around a little bit and they'll change the size of those columns. But I'm not going to be needing this row at all, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just remove it entirely, and there we go. The next row down is the blog feed, and to adjust that one, it's the same story. You can just click on something and this little menu bar will appear. The last item here are the options, and you can simply remove the block by doing that. There's another one here, and we'll just keep on removing everything on the home page. Whoops. Until we get rid of it all. And the last part is this one. Remove that block. Right, so there we go. We are now in a position where we have a completely blank home page. So let's update this page and we're going to go and preview what it looks like. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on View Page because the preview opens up another tab. So this is it. That is what your home page currently looks like. It's a blank slate, and what we're going to do is we're going to put stuff in there. Oh, one of the other things that I changed here that I forgot to mention was that I put the contribution link in as a button, but we'll get to that. Getting back to the home page. Now we want to start putting content on this home page. So all I really want on my home page is a feed of the latest blog posts, and that's all I'm going to put in there. So I'm going to click on this plus here to add a block, and I'm going to add a row. I'm going to select how many columns are in that row, and I think I only need to select one column. I'm not, yeah, it's one column, and within that column I'm going to add some content, and that block, if I click on the plus sign, I get the option of browsing all the different kinds of blocks that I can add in there. And I am looking for a blog feed. And you'll notice, oh, there it is there. Latest posts. If you get stuck, you can always use the search bar over here. So if I type in posts, it brings everything related to posts up on the options. So we'll click on post, and there we go. It brings in six dummy posts. So we'll need to now I will now want to start changing this to suit my own needs. So on the right hand side here, we have some options, and here we have the number of options. So there are currently 6 blog posts in the database. These are all the dummy blog posts that were imported when we did the Kadence template import. I'm just going to leave that at 6 for now. This will probably grow once I start adding my own content. What's nice here is that you can filter it by category. So if you wanted to have different rows containing different categories of posts, I could do that. But for the home page, I'm going to basically just stick with all the categories. So I'm not looking to filter out anything. Select the post taxonomy. Well, let's just see what that does. Yeah, there we go. So you can also change between categories and tags there. I'm not sure I'm going to use that. Show unique, and you can here exclude posts in this block from showing in others on the same page. So for instance, if you had 3 different categories of blog posts and you made a single blog post and you added it to 2 different categories because it might have overlaps. If you had those categories split up like I just mentioned, you wouldn't want that same blog post to appear in 2 different categories. You may want it to appear only in 1 category. So that's what this option does. Do you want to allow sticky posts? We are not entirely sure about that, so I don't think I'm going to be having any sticky posts. The layout settings, here we can adjust the number of columns that appear over here. Now these are different to the columns that we spoke about when we added the row. These are basically just the columns that appear within that column. Okay, do we want it boxed or unboxed? So if you take a look over here, you'll see that there's a slight indentation between where the image is and where the text begins. And if I do unboxed, that basically lines them up on the side like that. I'm not going to be using the images, so it doesn't really matter to me, but I think I'll leave it as an unboxed option for now. Image settings. If you want to use the images, you have quite a few options here which are fairly nice. So if you wanted to, the normal 3:2 aspect ratio or a 16:9 aspect ratio, you'll see it changes there. You can make them square if you wanted to, and you can also change the size of them. So at the moment they're set to medium large, and if you make it full size, I don't know if you can see this on your screen, but basically it's pulling the full image in, which sharpens things up quite dramatically. So I would suggest if you're going to use these, use the thumbnail, which is the smallest version of that image. I'm going to switch it off because I'm not using images. Category settings. Do you want to enable the categories to appear above the title category? Enable above title category. So that is pretty much over there. So if I click that off, you'll see they disappear. And this is how you learn, whoops, that's the wrong thing. This is how you learn how to use WordPress, just by trial and error. So those are off for now. The title size, that is the size of this piece of text. I set that to H5. You can choose your own, whichever size you like. And then you can also select the font size. Wow, okay, we don't need to do that, so I'll just remove that. The line height is how much space between the next item and that, so I'm not too fussed with that. Meta settings are this bit of information here, so by admin and the date. Seeing as I'm going to be the only author on this website, I don't need to have that information in there, so I will take that off. I will leave the date in there. There are a few other options here. I can put this enabled date label on there, and I can change that label. So you'll see at the moment it says posted on, and I could say, for instance, added on instead of that. I'm not going to need that. If you wanted to put in a modified date, you could have that there. So that was the first date of post, and we then modified that post on this day. Not necessary in my case. Enable categories. You can now enable the category to be shown below the thing instead of on top of it where it was originally. And you can also categorize that label. So you could label that category. So posted in dessert if you wanted to, which is quite nice. You can then say, if you have enabled comments on your blog posts, which I do not recommend you do, you could add them in there as well. So those are the things that I've done to get rid of all of that that other stuff that was on the home page before. One of the other things that I did was I noticed that this excerpt of information here is quite a long one, and I wanted to trim that down. And what I had to do was I had to go hop all the way over to the other side of the hanger to go and find out where that's done. And if you follow me, I'll show you exactly where to do that. So once again, we're going to go back to the home page. Hello, I want to visit the site, sorry. There we have it. So for now, we've got that there, and in the Customize menu, we will go down to Blog Posts, and we will go to the Archive Layout. Here we go. It would be under Excerpt, and it's defaulting to 55 words. I'm going to drop that down to about 25 words. And that's what it does. It just drops that bit of quoted text. And I might take that down even further. We'll see how I go. So now we're going to publish that. And exit out of the Customize menu. Okay, so we're starting to get a little bit closer to what we had over here. I'm going to quickly add in the sidebar. So let's do that now. And if we edit this page, so under the page settings icon, you'll see that there is an option to change your page layout. And we're currently looking at it in default mode. There is a normal mode, and there is a narrow mode, which squeezes everything together. Then there is a left sidebar and a right sidebar, as well as a full width. I want the right sidebar mode. And I'm just going to update the page. And now I need to actually create a sidebar. So how do we do that? Let's go back to the home page. Let's go back to the dashboard, and we'll go to widgets. And you'll notice that we have sidebars. We've got 2 of them, and we've got 6 places in the footer that we can add widgets. We're going to add our widgets in the sidebar here. So I'm just going to select categories, add the widgets there, and I'm going to just give it a title of epochs. If you don't know what epochs means, I'd suggest looking it up. It's basically just it's an era. It's the same sort of thing. So it's a very pretentious word that I'm using in my memoir. All right, we're back on there. Now let's go and have a look at the site and see if we have it there. And there you go. So at the moment, the reason why it's showing these strange things here is because I haven't actually adjusted the categories that I'm going to be using. So I'm not going to do that right now in this video, but to do that is very straightforward. It's done in the dashboard. And under the blog section, you will have an area where you can add categories. So you just click in there, go to categories, edit the ones that are there, or delete them and change their names, So that's where I think I'm going to wrap this one up. This video has gone in a bit longer than I had hoped it would go. But yeah, so in the next episode, what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you how to do that 3rd row of the header, which is where I put my banner image and an extra menu in. But that is a little bit complicated, so we'll leave that off until the next time. And until I see you then, take good care of yourself.